Hi guys, this is SDJR88 speaking with a review of the Gaugemaster DCC75 Tech 6 controller. The Tech 6 controller is a special controller for people like myself who wish to operate DCC sound locomotives without going full DCC. At a flick of a button, you can switch between analog power and DCC track power, which allows you all the functions to operate sound-fitted locomotives. The controller itself is produced by a company called MRC for Gaugemaster, and in the box you get everything you need to get started with no extra wiring needed. All you need is the controller and the wall plug and you're good to go. Setting up the Tech 6 controller is extremely easy. All you just have to do is plug in your standard wires to the track, so you've got your one there and the one there, and then just plug it into the mains and pretty much you're ready to go. There's no extra wiring needed. It's just like any old standard analog controller. Of course, digitals you sometimes need bus wires and other bits and pieces, but with this, as we are just using the odd DCC Sound Fitted Loco, you won't need to have your points unisolated or anything like that. In fact, having isolated points is key to the operation of this controller, as I will explain in a moment. So once you've switched on the power, you should have a couple of lights. The first one you'll notice up here is the direction of control. This is basically the direction in which your locomotive goes, like any bog standard controller, DC or non-DC. And you change the direction simply by pressing the little arrow key there. And as you can see, the light changes depending on which direction the loco will be heading. Now, the next button is the most important button on the whole controller, and you really need to pay attention to this one, and you've got to be very, very careful. Now, you can see up here, there is a light lit under an option which says Analog. Now, that means the controller is analog controller, so this is basically a non-digital controller, so that means you can run any of your normal fleet, so any locomotives that haven't got chips in or sound fitted. So this is just a normal, at the moment, a normal analog controller, and you should simply just drive the train by turning the speed dial and of course changing the direction. Now, before you press the button, you've got to make sure that all of your analog locos are either off the track or in an isolated siding, whichever is easiest for you. You got to make sure of this, because if you press this button with any of your analog locos on the track while you go into digital mode, you will hear a horrible buzzing noise from the motor, which is of course the motor burning out, and you do not want that. And it does sound quite scary, but as long as you've made the precautions, you should be perfectly fine. So out of shot now, I actually have got an normal analog locomotive which is isolated in a siding behind a normal set of points. So the points are flipped against it. They are isolating their insel frog points, so they are isolated, and the locomotive is in the siding. So if I press this button now, you will see the light has turned onto the one on the left and is now red, and it's under the option digital. And now what I've just basically done is I've just turned the whole of the layout into a DCC layout. And basically it's the same as a normal operation from here. So basically if you've got a DCC loco with sound on there, you just simply change the throttle and of course change the direction. Now, one thing that sort of does let this controller down compared to other digital controllers is the fact you can only have one address, and that address has got to be 03. So every locomotive that comes fresh from the factory with a digital chip is set to 03. Of course, you can reprogram it to any number you want, and of course that gives each locomotive its own unique address. Well, each locomotive will need to be reset to 0, and with this controller you can only run one DCC loco at a time. So the main bonus of DCC is you can run multiple locomotives on the same track and control them individually. With this, it's basically a bit like an analog controller, but with a DCC chip option. So if your locomotive is fresh from the box, from the factory, you're ready to go. The locomotive's already set to 03. But if you don't have, your loco's been either reprogrammed on someone else's layout, or you're using DCC on another layout and it's got another address, what you would need to do is hold down the shift key and then press 99, and that will basically reset the loco to its factory function, which is 03, and then you'll be able to control the loco from there. Then basically sound options are very, very simple. You basically have what you would do with your instruction sheet, which comes with your sound fitted loco. You have all the functions numbered on there, and basically it's just you follow the numbers on there and you enter them on the keypad. So 1 normally is lights, and you've got 2 is probably startup or horn, and basically you just go on through the numbers as it's listed on the instructions with your locomotive. Now if the, as with many locos, they have functions up to 28. This controller goes up to functions of 28, which most basic DCC controllers don't. So if you want a dual digit number, so i.e. function 10, function 11, ECT up to 28, you'll need to hold shift and then enter the number, and then basically that will allow you to operate the double digit numbers. Amazingly, this controller can also adjust the variables of your locomotive by holding down the P button, which is, I presume, stands for program. And basically you can, there's all on the instruction sheet here, and basically it will tell you how to adjust your start voltage, your acceleration momentum, your top voltage, and any other things you wish to adjust, so you can make the locomotive pull away slowly or stop slower, ECT. You can even adjust the CVs, and this is something which I've done. Now the CVs are important for sound locos, as it allows you to adjust the volume of the sound. And when I got my TTS Class 31 out of the box, I found it to be a bit quiet for my liking. So I adjusted the CV settings from a volume of 4 to a volume of 6. And you do this by basically holding down the P button again, and then you enter the CV number, which is again on the locomotive's instructions. You then press enter, and then you change and adjust to your liking. So it's all very, very simple, really. Basically, it's a nice little unit, very easy to sort of understand. But of course, the main thing you've got to be careful about is this mode. So without further ado, let's see the controller in action. So all in all, the Tech 6 really is a handy controller for people like myself who wish to operate DCC sound locomotives but without going full DCC. I guess the unit could also be used to double up as a transition controller for those of you who are gradually upgrading your fleet to DCC. For the price, I feel you really can't go wrong, and the fact that it's very simple to set up and operate is a real bonus as well. There's no extra wiring needed, just simply connect up your track and your power supply and you're ready to go. Of course, the downside is you cannot operate multiple DCC fitted locomotives, only one at a time because of the single address. But the real bonus of this controller over many basic DCC controllers is it allows you to operate your analog fleet, but also the fact that you can operate all of the sound functions which most basic controllers under £200 will not allow you to do. So I think this controller really does open up a whole new field of opportunities for people like myself who would wish to try some DCC locomotives but without changing over and buying an expensive DCC controller and having to swap them each time for operational purposes. So I think this really is an eye-opening unit, and of course I highly recommend this to anybody like myself who wants to try a couple of these new basic sound-fitted locos but without breaking the bank. So I can highly recommend this product. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm sure you can expect to see more DCC sound videos coming from the layout in the not too distant future. So this has been SDJR Son F88 speaking, and thanks for watching.